How better go, how better go there, how better go there, how better go where, how better go here, how better now, how better go.
Tax defaulted properties for sale. Welcome back. In this episode, we're discussing tax delinquent properties for sale. Now, in over 3,000 counties across the United States, you can find tax defaulted properties. All right, so there's going to be plenty for everyone. All of the properties are not pristine, and they're not elegant, and not all of them are pretty. So tax defaulted real estate generally is used and abused, and in some instances, it's junk. So you don't want to buy junk. Forget about that. Don't buy the junkers. You're not going to be able to sell them. However, there's going to be good properties to find at the tax defaulted auction. So plenty are available in all 3,000 plus counties. Now, they're not all going to be A properties. Now, everybody wants to find an A or a B property. I'm going to tell you they're going to be there at the auction.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get her going here. Start me off. Where to bid to go? How better $1,000, open it up.
However, people are going to bid them up over their value. So think about that. All right. So think about C and D properties, because that's where the money's going to be. But there's going to be plenty of properties at these tax defaulted auction. All right. So the best opportunity is in the C and D properties. I'll be right back. Maybe you're an entrepreneur. People have different personal and professional motivations for becoming an entrepreneur. For many people, it's a dream of getting rich, okay, or having a lot of money. Or some people, it's fame and recognition. What about you? I don't know what it is, but entrepreneurs, one of the biggest reasons people become entrepreneurs is they don't fit into a corporate mold or a template and want to work in a corporation. They want to work for themselves, and they want to work at home. So in many of my student entrepreneurs, well, they go home and work 60 hours, whereas they'd only work 40 hours if they had a regular job. So it's going to be up to you. You're going to make the decision. If you want to be an entrepreneur and work at home, I certainly understand that. So ask yourself this question. If you could buy slightly used and abused properties for 10 or 20 cents on the dollar, and then you could resell them by putting signs on the front lawn or using Craigslist or using Facebook Marketplace or the MLS or Trulia or Zillow, and you could do that sitting at home at a computer and then sell them to guys and gals that wanted to fix properties up. If you could do that, buying them at 10 and 20 cents on the dollar, sell them at 50, 60 cents on the dollar, would that work for you? Well, it certainly works for a lot of people. And guess what? Those profits are going to go to you and take care of your family, and you're going to help the local county because you're going to be able to help them pay all their county bills. So if you're willing to work, which most people are, and you're motivated to make a large portfolio of real estate and grow it, well, you're in the right place, that's for sure. Can you think a little bit out of the box? That's going to help a lot. If you're a problem solver, you'll do very well in this business. You don't need a fancy license from the governor of the state to do this business, but you do need informational tools to learn how to do it. So I know everyone wants to be wealthy. Now, when you open your eyes tomorrow morning, you're not going to have a bunch of dollar bills sitting in front of you. The money just won't be there before your eyes. What I'm getting at is you cannot have what you want until you can create in your mind's eye what you want and what you're willing to do in exchange for what you want. Only you can create the equivalent of what you want. So let me give you an example of that. It's really a simple example, and you'll get it right away. Getting wealthy is just like having a vegetable garden in your backyard. First, you deposit the seeds in the ground. Then you have to do what you're going to do to make it grow. In other words, you're going to have to water it. So if you want tomatoes, you want carrots, that's how you're going to do it. You're going to put the seeds in the ground, and then you're going to take care of it. In other words, you're going to exchange some labor to get what you want out of it. So you need to plant the seed, then you need to figure out what you're going to try to do to make the whole thing grow. So if you're willing to give up the old ideas and acquire some new ideas, this program is going to work for you. So ask yourself, what are you willing to exchange for success? That's an important thing because that's what will keep you motivated. Most people don't know how to make money with tax defaulted property. Now, I know there's a lot of promises out there in the marketplace. What do I mean by that? Well, late night television, a lot of promoters on the internet, all going to tell you you're going to get rich with tax defaulted property. I'm going to tell you right now, it's work. There's going to be plenty of it, but there's going to be an abundance of properties. So I'm an educator, I'm an investor, and an author, but I can tell you in these episodes, They're all created to show you the investor standpoint. So if you can follow along with these different lessons, you'll do just fine. Now, throughout these videos, I'll show you some interesting examples of how I've been able to help previous investors. I'll be able to help them because they just followed a step-by-step process. So in today's episode, I'm answering your question, tax delinquent properties for sale. Now, every county has a different tax sale process. By that, I mean the procedures in the county are what they want to do. They're always trying to get rid of their property, but they do it their own way. So you need to follow the county rule for that county that you're trying to buy in. The place to start is with the auction rules. Then you want to continue and do your homework by researching and determining what the property's condition is. What's the neighborhood like? After all, you're not going to be able to change that neighborhood, but you can change the property. So keep that in the back of your mind. Simultaneously, you should be researching the title. Now, if you don't know how to research the title, you're going to have to learn how, or you're going to have to use a title company because you want to find out what liens are on that property. Experienced investors, of course, can guide you with that, but you need to research the property title. If you're satisfied with the property and the neighborhood, and now the title's looking okay, now you just have to figure out, is the starting bid in the right place so that you can know that you start low enough and you're not going to bid too high to buy that property, then you're ready to get started. All right, now the county will have starting bids usually in the neighborhood of 10 or 20 cents on the dollar. However, the real estate prices, they don't know what it's going to be, and no one knows what it's going to sell for at auction. Why? Because the highest bid is going to get it. So if people bid past you, don't worry about it. There'll be another auction. What you need to figure out is the margin between the purchase price and the sales price for you. How did you do that? You did that by knowing what the purchase price was and then knowing what you're going to be able to sell it for. So you need to determine your selling price before you make your final bid. Don't overbid for the properties. It's not going to work. So auctions are very intimidating. Newcomers overbid all the time. Even experienced investors overbid on many, many occasions. You don't want to do that because you won't be able to sell it. So you need to know your exit strategy. You need to know that neighborhood before you do any bidding. Now, there are used and abused properties there. Some are junk, don't buy those, but buy the C and D properties because that's where the real money is going to be. Now, throughout these videos, I include some interesting examples of people that have made money, and I'll do that on this video in just a moment. For example, in a local county just north of Tampa, Florida, one of my students purchased a property, and it wasn't a very pretty property at that, but he bought it at the auction for $9,100. So keep that in the back of your mind. He invested $9,100 after he had already looked at the neighborhood. Now, the property was slightly used and abused. However, it was completely overgrown with vegetation and small trees. So that discouraged many of the other investors. However, the tax assessor determined the value of the property to be $91,000. All right, let's not confuse these. He paid $9,100, but the tax assessor determined the value at $91,000. All right, now using techniques he learned in the training, what he did is he went out and looked at the neighborhood, okay? He found out other comparable values of way over the $90,000, all the way up to $150,000. So my student sold the property to a tenant handyman who was willing to go in and fix the property, and the handyman gave him a bid, tendered a bid of $5,000 to get started as a down payment, and then monthly payments until it was paid off. He sold the property. He purchased it at $9,100. He sold the property on a contract for sale for $150,000. Now ask yourself, if you made one deal like that, how many would you have to do that year to be happy? Probably not too many. So selling is important. Now, if you can get the selling part right, it's going to be smooth sailing for you. If you get it wrong, you're not going to make very much money in this business. So what I've just shown you is just a tiny glimpse of the spectacular profits that can be made in this business. There's many more that I can tell you about in future episodes. Now, I'm running out of time. You see those little white circles? That's how many auctions are taking place within that state in the next 90 days. This calendar updates every single day. I'm here today to show you how to make money. To do that, I'm going to show you briefly that there are thousands of tax defaulted real estate properties across the 3,000 plus counties in the United States. This is quite interesting. You're looking at the Ted Thomas Magic Interactive Map and Auction Calendar. It changes every day. Now, I created the calendar and the map so I would know how many auctions are taking place every day in the United States. Now I can show the little guy how to make money. Most importantly, I created this system so I could have an auction list for each auction 24/7. In the small population counties, they'll have dozens, even hundreds of properties to sell at auction. In the large population counties, they will have hundreds, even thousands of properties to sell at auction. All right, two big mistakes that you want to avoid. Mistake number one, don't buy a property unless you've looked at it. There could have been a fire, there could have been a hurricane, there could have been a flood, it could be next to a chicken farm. There's a lot of reasons not to buy a property. Don't buy a property unless you look at it, all right? Second big mistake people make is they don't go look at the neighborhood. They don't establish what the selling price is going to be, so they don't have an exit strategy. Always know your exit strategy so you don't overbid. I'm Ted Thomas. I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget, request your free auction list right below me.